Hollywood slop? Just Hollywood slop. I mean, just look at it. I overrated 2025 way too much. There was almost nothing good on screen. However, there was one in particular that stood out as an instant classic. That movie is Sinners, my favorite movie of 2025. Absolutely blowing every other movie of the year out of the water. It manages to blend many different genres together with some horror elements, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a horror movie, but rather a thriller due to its sheer action and plenty of bloodshed. It also feels super complete, as many Hollywood movies these days feel unfinished and also just rushed in general, but this one actually feels like it's been done to perfection, and as flawless as it can be, allowing it to sweep Oscar nominations and become one of the most nominated films in Oscar history. So why do I offer such high praise to this flawless thriller? What allowed its success to carve a path in the Oscars? And how can we take notes from it in the future of Hollywood filmmaking? In today's movie review, I'll be talking about 2025's ultimate movie, Sinners. I'll give you viewers some great details on why this movie is fantastic. First off, one element in particular that makes this movie indestructible is the genre blending, which is absolutely flawless. It mixes something unpredictable for an original movie. For being an original movie, it is ridiculously insane how much it has to offer. It starts slow with its 1930s Mississippi Delta period drama, then slowly starts adding music elements that have plenty of blues, and then goes crazy with its vampire thriller element with levels of energy and supernatural horror elements. You've got plenty to offer, such as historical fiction, set in a western-like setting, crime drama, musical, action, and horror. It doesn't overwhelm the viewer with any of these, since it perfectly feels like it gives out plenty of each genre. It uses music to give more character development rather than just being out of nowhere as a typical musical thriller. It's an extremely visceral turn due to how the story goes, with our characters trying to start life again, only to confront a supernatural evil that haunts them. It's a nice way to pay tribute to music culture with a clever mix of thriller action in the process. Unlike movies that use music as a background element and as an excuse to stop just to show off to their audiences on what they want, Sinners uses excellent music elements as a central plot device that has a large impact on how it's created overall. This movie's music makes the music in Wicked for Good look like a wet Sunday morning in comparison, and even gives some other modern music themed movies a run for their money. It has a blend of blues, jazz, Irish folk, and some great guitar elements that are part of the narrative, making the music more of a generational bridge, making the songs more than just an icon. One of the songs in particular is I Lied to You, which is probably where the film starts to amp up. Miles Catton learned guitar skills in particular when preparing to film his scenes to make them extremely impressive. It's training that really pays off. It nicely pays tribute to music as a whole, showing its significance in pop culture. It doesn't support the mood, it is the mood. It's so good that the music needed to extend its scenes into an IMAX format, making it extremely spectacular and overwhelming in a good way. I absolutely enjoyed this movie's performances, being one of the biggest shout-outs here, even if at first it was really difficult to follow. Nonetheless, it became much simpler to understand, and I grew more and more accustomed to how talented these people are. For example, Michael B. Jordan's dual role, the twin brothers Smoke and Stack, was awesome. He manages to give both some unique personalities, which don't come off as a cheap way to make them the same actor playing the character. The way the effects and visual styles managed to make them so different mustn't have been an easy task. It's what carried this movie's character development. Miles Catton was also amazing with his guitar skills and stuff as he learned to do this during the movie's production. Other fantastic performances include Jack O'Connell as the film's sinister antagonist, being so unlikable yet so amazing all the same, Haley Steinfeld and Delroy Lindo, who provides his legendary status, earning an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. The characters are way more enjoyable than the film's already great storytelling. Another main shout out that makes this movie a masterpiece is its visual style, which is extremely fitting for a film that has a great artsy vibe, making it feel like something you'd see in an art museum. Good lord, talk about a cheap movie that looks better than every expensive movie released in 2025. It successfully creates scope and dread with so much attention to detail, with its setting being very fitting, darker tonal shifting to help match its Dance with the Devil vibe, the atmosphere being extremely hellish, and the production values and design for the costumes and to add final touches to its vibe is nothing short of a miracle. With historical details paving the way for such a great story, it becomes very clear as to why this movie is often hailed as 2025's greatest movie. It's going to age very well in many years from now on. It reminds me of cheaply made movies that have fantastic visual style that look a lot better than typical Hollywood slop. This is one example, joining a similar group. Lastly, this is an original movie that gets everything right, having so much respect for whatever it wants to do, and rightfully for good reason. As for some examples, Ryan Coogler's direction is spectacular, easily rivaling some of his past MCU works, and other films that use a similar approach, being reminiscent on how he takes his time writing masterpiece after masterpiece, standing out amongst the battlefield. The social commentary is also insane, being more than just a need for survival plot. It's relatable, easy to follow, the vampire mythos adds powerful stories for cultural fifth, it builds community in its first half, and gives off emotional depth in the second half, being the more engaging. And finally, if you can take your time making something good, you've got a masterpiece like this. You don't need to be a sequel or something based on a big IP to be entertaining. A well-written story, likable and engaging characters, compelling themes, and a surrealistic setting are more than enough. One of the few post-pandemic movies to get it done right, much like the past few years that have had at least one surprise a year. Sinners is spectacular, and deserves all the Oscar recognition more than any movie released that year. There are loads of genres to be seen here that never come off as overwhelming, being very nicely blended for viewers. Ryan Coogler absolutely cooked directing this with a script that works like a charm. The music elements are spectacular, with elements that make it feel more than just a cultural icon. The performances are amazing. It has gorgeous cinematography and visuals as if it was taken directly from an art museum. It boasts strong thematic depth, and it's perfect example of how an original movie is done right, standing heads and shoulders above the majority of modern filmmaking. It's hard to give in on just how incredible this movie is. Not only is it of true significance to the US, but everywhere else as well, showing its shifting. But I think we can all agree that compared to much of 2025's Hollywood slop, this sweeps all of its sequels, remakes, and reboots. Remember, it's always important as a film director to ensure that a movie feels as complete as ever, or else it will just be the same thing over and over again, killing cinema as we know it. Sinners is an absolute masterpiece that will forever go down as one of 2025's ultimate movies, carving a futuristic pathway for modern day cinema. We are all sinners. Ryan Coogler's masterful directional effort turned Sinners into a spectacular, incredibly well built, original experience, scoring plenty of thematic depth and shooting down many targets of marvelous musical notes. My final score for this original R-rated experience is a 10 out of 10 and a grade S. Easily up there as a fantastic original that makes every other Hollywood slop released recently look like a dead carcass in comparison. I always question why movies these days don't look as good as this film, but now I clearly understand why. It's always important to make a script very well written, and once you've got an idea, you can potentially make a movie so good that it could be as great as how Sinners was done. But with that being said, leave a like on this video if you guys did enjoy my review on Sinners, and also remember to subscribe if you're new and hit that bell icon to see more content on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Take care of yourselves.